Welcome back, all my dear students, in my channel 5 Minute School. As already I have discussed about Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement and also some portion civil disobedience movement. And I had discussed regarding the civil disobedience movement, Gandhi had chosen salt. Salt was a thing which used or consumed by rich and poor, and everyone had to pay tax to the government. Even the most important thing, government had monopoly over the salt production, but it is the Indian things. That is why Gandhi had taken decision not to obey the British laws. And for this reason, Gandhi started his famous Salt March from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi with his 78 followers. This incident known as Dandi March, and it was occurred in which year? 1930. Now this time Gandhi, when his 78 volunteers, he moved to Dandi by crossing near about 390 kilometers, Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. And Gandhi went over there and picked up salt and violated the salt law. This incident was a symbolic, and by the violating of salt law, civil disobedience movement started all over the India, and people from all sections of the society had participated in this movement. And one very significant is this one: in this movement women had participated in huge amount. But if we consider the civil disobedience movement was far different regarding the non-cooperation movement. Non-cooperation movement was not to cooperate with the British, whereas civil disobedience movement was violating the British law. Regarding both areas, both movement, people had participated. And in both movement, foreign clothes were boycotted and liquor shops were picked up. Even peasants in civil disobedience movement, peasants refused to pay chowkidari tax, and forest people violated the forest laws, started going to reserve forest. So these ways, the far difference regarding the civil disobedience movement and the non-cooperation movement. Civil disobedience movement became popular all over the India. And what happened that time? British had begun to arrest the Congress leaders one by one. Even they had arrested Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was known as the Frontier Gandhi. Even Gandhi was also arrested by the British. Then what happened? Common people had shown their anger. Then workers started attacking police posts, municipal buildings, court, railway stations. And government had taken the opportunity, and then what done? They had given their own response, and finally peaceful people were attacked by the British. Women and children also were beaten by the British officers. Even about 1 lakh people were arrested. Due to this, Gandhi finally called off the civil disobedience movement. Gandhi-Irwin Pact was signed in 1931. Gandhi's demand was to release political leaders, and so he went London but returned disappointed. Ghaffar Khan and also Jawaharlal Nehru was still in jail. Congress was declared illegal, and Gandhiji finally relaunched the civil disobedience movement, but it lost its momentum by 1934. After discussing all these points, let us discuss the new point, that is how participants saw this movement. Here we will discuss about the rich peasants. In the countryside, rich peasants communities like the Patidars of Gujarat and Jats of Uttar Pradesh, they were active in the movement. Why? Being the producer of commercial crops, they were very hard hit by the trade depression and falling prices. And as their cash income disappeared, they found it impossible to pay the government's revenue demand. And the refusal of the government to reduce the revenue demand led to the widespread movement. and these rich peasants became enthusiastic supporters of civil disobedience movement, and they had organized communities and also at times forcing elected members to participate in the boycott programs. For them, the fight for the Swaraj was a struggle against the high revenue. But they were deeply disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931 without the revenue rates being revised. So when the movement was restarted in 1932, many of them refused to participate. What happened with the poor peasants? Small farmers cultivated on landlords' land, and as because depression continued, so it was quite difficult for the small farmers to pay their revenue, and their demand was landlord cancel their unpaid rent, and this demand was not supported by the rich peasants, even the Congress. Which campaign launched by the poor peasants? That was the no rent campaign, and this no rent campaign was not supported by the Congress as well as rich peasants. So finally what happened? These poor peasants lost their importance from this movement. If you come to the point regarding the business class, here it is very much unique one. What happened? That business class during the First World War, they had made huge amount of profit. But somehow colonial policies restricted business activities, and so this business class wanted policies which supported them, and that time huge amount of goods were imported from foreign countries to India, and this kind of business class wanted protection against imports of foreign goods to protect their interest. Now apart from these things, if we consider that Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress in 1920 and Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries FICCI in 1907 were set up, and this one led by Purushottam Das, Thakur Das and G.D. Birla. Finally, for their interest, what they had done? They gave financial support to the civil disobedience movement and refused to buy any sell important goods. So this business class also had supported civil disobedience movement. If we discuss regarding the industrial working class, we'll find that they didn't participate in civil disobedience movement in large number. Only except regarding the Nagpur region. What happened? Those who participated adopted Gandhian program, and they had boycotted the foreign goods, and their own movement was against the low wages and poor working condition. So here also working class people also had participated, but not in huge amount, but they also had participated civil disobedience movement. But the demands of the industrial working class not supported by the Congress. So many industrial working class also lost their interest from this movement. And regarding the women also, if we can see in this movement, women had participated in huge number. During Dandi March, thousands of women came out from their home to listen Gandhiji when they participated in the protest march and manufactured salt. Many women were arrested and they went to jail. Moved by Gandhiji's call, they began to see service to the nation as sacred duty of women. Gandhiji was successful to take out the women from their home and involve them in nation-making procedures. And women also had given their response in huge amount, and they also came out from their home and had participated in civil disobedience movement. After discussing all these points, let's discuss regarding the limitation of civil disobedience movement. Now, in this movement, all social group didn't join. By concept of Swaraj, their concept, their aim were different. Even Congress had ignored Dalits and depressed class. So fear of defending the conservative high class Hindu. From mid 1920, Congress was most visible as Hindu dominating party because they joined Hindu Mahasabha. So Muslim people they kept themselves aloof from the civil disobedience movement. And if we compare this movement with the non-cooperation movement, during non-cooperation movement, huge amount of Muslims had participated. Rather, they had participated in civil disobedience movement very less. As a result, Muhammad al-Jinnah demanded separate electorate for Muslims as he feared that the culture and identity of minorities would be lost under dominating of Hindu majority. These things actually somehow limitize the civil disobedience movement. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was nominated as leader of depressed class for roundtable conference. He clashed with the Gandhiji and demanded separate electorate for Dalits. British accepted Ambedkar's demand and Gandhiji began fast unto death. And he believed that separate electorate for Dalits would the process of integration of society will slow down. And finally, Gandhiji had signed Pune Pact Act in 1932 September. It gave depressed class reserved seat in provincial and central legislative council, but they were to vote by general electorate. Today up to this portion, and if you have any doubts or suggestion, please write in our comment box. Thank you, all of you. Have a nice day ahead.